Do you have money habits that are keeping you from creating wealth? Or even worse, money habits that are keeping you poor? In this episode, I'm going to dive into the 7 worst money habits that will drain your finances. Let's stop the leak. A lot of the things we do every day, we don't think about it. It's habits. Maybe it's something you learn from your parents or your grandparents. Maybe it's just something you picked up along the way and you don't think about it because you never it's just something you do, right? Like the way you pour milk in a glass. But we're going to fix that now because I'm going to show you 7 money habits that you should change if you want to become really rich. Let's dive in. Let's talk about debt. Isn't it odd how it's socially acceptable and even expected to build up debt as we go through life? You study, you're supposed to get student debt. You buy a car, you're supposed to get a loan. You buy a house, you're supposed to get a mortgage. You buy stuff, you're supposed to use your credit card. It's all over the place, and it's just the way that people do things. Well, we can challenge that because the thing about debt is it's compounded, but not the way we want it to be. It's negatively compounding. The interest you pay, are supposed to pay, they can build up if you're not paying it fast enough. And that means your debt will grow. That's exactly the opposite of what we're trying to do when we invest. We want compounding, but we want the money that we already made with our investment to also make money. So why is it that we get debt? Is it possible to live a life without debt? I have to admit that at some point in my life, I've had debt too. When I started, I did get some student debt. I didn't even need it. In Denmark, where I studied, I also studied in the US, but first I studied in Denmark. You actually get paid for studying. It's not a lot, but you get like a little salary. And you can take a student job. But somehow, I don't know why, we all take loans anyway. Some of you might be thinking, that's so easy for you to say. Well, I studied in the US and it was so expensive. I had to take on debt. Well, actually, I studied at NYU and that was not cheap. But somehow I got out of it without debt. How? Well, I applied for grants. I had a teaching assistantship and I did whatever I could, a job here and there. What about mortgage? Well, my first house, yes, I did have a mortgage. Today I rent. And I'm not saying that renting is better. It really depends on your situation. And I made another episode about should you rent or should you buy a house? I told my story, my experience, and went into some of the numbers where I figured out it was actually good business for me to be renting at that time. Why am I renting? Well, it's a life situation. I moved to Portugal with my kids. I wasn't completely sure where we belonged or if we would stay in Portugal. So renting gave me more flexibility. I still rent today and, I still want the flexibility. And for me, being an entrepreneur, it makes sense that I have the flexibility and also the convenience of someone fixing if there's a problem with the pool or whatever, electricity. I just call the company that I rented through and they send someone to fix it. That really, really is worth a lot to me. So I don't have any debt at all. And I want to challenge the idea that you should build up debt. So what if you do have debt? What do? You have to look at it, write it down. Which kind of debt do you have? And what is the interest rate on the different portions of your debt? And wherever it's highest is where you want to pay down fastest. It's very logical. It's just the way you want to do it. The next habit is paying yourself last. And what do I mean? When you get money into your account, most people pay the big bills first. The rent, the electricity, and then you have money left. And what happens? You use it, you spend it. You go out for dinner, maybe you book a trip to somewhere, and what happens at the end of the month? There's not a lot left. And that was the money you were supposed to save and invest, right? But there's nothing left. And how come? Have you ever heard of Parkinson's law? No, it's got nothing to do with shaking. Parkinson's law comes from Professor C. Northcote Parkinson, who studied the way that governments spend money. And he figured out, well, actually, they spend whatever is there. Whatever is allocated to a project, it's spent. That's just how it is. That's what he figured out. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, right? Think about your own life. First of all, think about your bank account. Isn't it true that you use whatever's there? Or think about time. Do you remember when you were a student and you had 14 days to write an essay? How long would it take? 14 days. If you had until tomorrow to do a certain assignment, how long would it take? Until tomorrow, just a day. And that's how it is. We spend the time that's allocated. We spend the money that's allocated. So if you don't pay yourself first, and what does that mean? That means at the beginning of the month, you withdraw money from your own account into a savings account from which account you're going to invest in stocks. If you don't do that, it's like all the money is just allocated to fun and you will spend it on whatever. The rule here is every month at the beginning of the month, move savings to a savings account or an investment account and start investing. Pay yourself first. Next habit is trying to keep up with the Joneses. We all have friends that spend more than we do, that live a different lifestyle. Maybe they have more money than we do, or maybe they just don't care that much. Maybe they are building up debt. I've been in situations where I was uncomfortable with saying no. And I'm thinking about a very particular situation where a friend of mine, and I know about her that she was building up debt all the time. She had credit card debt and all kinds of debt, always. And we were going on a weekend trip, and she said, I'll take a cab, I'll come by your house, and I'll pick you up at the cab, and we'll go to the airport. What was so silly about this situation is I lived right next to the metro that goes straight to the airport, and it would be faster for me to take the metro. This situation happened in Denmark, and I will tell you, cabs in Denmark are not like Ubers. They're not cheap. And I remember wanting to say, no, I'll take the metro. But because we were going on a trip together, I didn't want to appear cheap. I didn't want to say, I'll take the metro, I'll meet you there. I didn't do it. I probably didn't do it the next time either. But I remember the feeling of how silly that was and how embarrassed I was, both that I felt that way and embarrassed about not being able to say, I'll take the metro. So what's my advice to you? And just a little side note here. Today, I live in a house in Portugal. I have 2 kids. I do not take any metros today. I drive, I take cabs, but it's a different situation. Last time we went traveling, I had 2 semi-small kids and a dog with me. There's no way I'm taking the metro now, right? No way. But that was a different situation. I was single back then. It was just a weekend trip. I just had a small thing, a small carry-on, and I was still building up my wealth to become financially independent. Today, it's a completely different situation. If you're in that situation where you still want to save, you still want to build up wealth, what do you do with that situation? My advice to you, and I'm sorry, I'm being transparent here, I wasn't very good at it myself, just tell them like it is. Just say it. Say it with kindness and a smile, soft voice. Just say, hey, I am saving up money for the time being. I really prefer to take the metro. Would you mind meeting me at the airport instead? It's not easy, really. And somehow I was successful anyway, and I did become financially free in my 40s, so it's all fine. All is good. Next habit, you're not keeping track of your spendings and your accounts. This is where you actually don't really look at your accounts, and you don't know where your money is going. This is bad for 2 reasons. First of all, you are definitely spending money where you shouldn't be spending money. It could be you're double charged for something on the credit card. It could be that you're still subscribed to something that you're no longer using. That's the first thing. You're wasting money. And just a side note here, I am not all in for penny pinching and saving money on small things, but I don't recommend wasting money either. There's a fine balance here. The second point here is money's energy. It will flow to you. And I know I sound a little superstitious here, but I really believe this. And money will not flow to wherever it is not protected and taken care of. So what does it mean? It's about appreciating money. When you look at your accounts, when you plan, when you do all this, you appreciate money. It's kind of a way of saying, thank you, money. Thank you for being here. I'm looking after you. Don't worry, you're in good hands. And I know some people have this idea that it's like penny pinching, but it's not the same, because when you look through your account and you're spending money, as long as it's something that is useful or beautiful, that's great. The point here is to make sure you're not wasting money on something that you don't want anymore, right? So what do? You sit down with your accounts and you go through them once a month. Put it in your calendar. Make it something that you actually prioritize. And there are several ways you could do it. You can use different apps. There are plenty of them. You can just search in the App Store, or you can use a spreadsheet. And I prefer a spreadsheet because with my life, different currencies, even different countries, that's what I really need to get a good overview. Another one is paying too much in taxes. This is linked to not looking at your accounts, not looking at what's going in and out, not being sloppy about your money. If you're sloppy about your money, you're probably sloppy about taxes as well. Are you paying too much in taxes? For most people, taxes will be their biggest expense throughout their lifetime. It's really worth being on top of your taxes. And there are several ways to optimize taxes. For example, in investing, there are different accounts, and I'm not sure which country you're in right now. It could be a Roth, it could be an IRA. What I suggest that you do is first read up on it. And I will link to a blog post where you can read more about taxes, because we don't want to get lost in the woods here. And another thing you could do, apart from reading up on it, is, well, hire an accountant to look through your finances and your life and see if there are any places where you could save on taxes and be more efficient with taxes. So those are like the micro movements you can do in your life. Invest on the right account and all that stuff. But there are also macro moves you can do, big bold moves. And I did one of these. I moved to Portugal, where I pay a lot less in taxes than I did in Denmark. I'm here on NHR, non-habitual residency. And I'm not going to explain a lot about that, because probably for you that's not relevant right now. Or maybe you would be, if you were to move to another country, it would be a completely different country. There are plenty of countries you could move to where you could probably pay less than where you live now. Of course, it should always be within the legal system. Don't do anything illegal. It's about optimizing your taxes. Next bad money habit is not learning enough about money and investing. I took out a pile of books here. I'm just going to run through them really quickly. But before I do that, I just want to say it's not just about books. It's about signing up for the right newsletters, reading the right blog posts, listening to YouTube videos and podcasts like mine, and of course, taking an investing course. But let me dive into some of the books here. We'll start with one of the classics that are like, it's like a really, really easy place to start. Most people know this book already. It's Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, not sure how to pronounce that. And I mean, there are more points in this book, but the overall point that is really good to get is that rich people, they think differently. So he says he had two dads. One was a professor and he didn't know how to invest. And the other dad, he knew about money. So the point to take from this book is that money is a skill that you have to hone. Okay, so the next one is The Secret. And The Secret is like the basic introduction to the law of attraction. And the idea here is that you have to train your mind to set a goal and to think positively about that goal and go for it. And if you're into this, there's the Bible. And the Bible I'm just going to introduce means so much to me. I have 2 or 3, 4, maybe 5 Bibles that I just like. It really set the foundation for me. This is one of them. So I actually bought 3 different, just to show you how serious I am about this book. 3 different copies. I have it in Danish. I have it in English here in a paperback version that I can carry anywhere. And it's Think and Grow Rich with Napoleon Hill. Idea is the same. It's the same as in The Secret, meaning it's about the law of attraction. It's about thinking in a way so you attract the goals that you set for yourself. There's a lot more to it than that, but I can't get into it here because we have to get on to the next steps. This is another Bible, The Intelligent Investor, Ben Graham. This is the first book that created value investing. It's written a long time ago, and the language can be a bit hard to get through. If you want to get a quick lesson from it, then go to chapter 8, which is the chapter about Mr. Market. And that really is the whole foundation of value investing. Mr. Market is a chapter where he describes the market as a person, and he describes the market, the stock market, as a very crazy person, someone who's manic depressive who one moment is really happy and think the world is wonderful, and the next moment everything is just rubbish. And that is actually sometimes how the market reacts. And that's why we want to look at the value of the company, what's inside the company, and not just the stock price. Of course, now that we're at it, value investing, some of the biographies of Warren Buffett are really, they have nuggets of gold within them, because you really see how his mind works and how he really invests and how he lives his life. So I really like this one, The Snowball, which is almost like an autobiography in the sense that he asked for this book to be written by Alice Schroeder. So he cooperated with that book. There is another one, and I have to go into the bottom of the pile, another Warren Buffett biography that's really good. Buffett, The Making of an American Capitalist by Roger Lowenstein. Wonderful book as well. I'm going to fly through some of these. Oh my God, I love this book. Richer, Wiser, Happier. These are portraits of different people who are good investors. And there's so many. I can't even tell you one thing, because each chapter is like a whole book in itself. This is really like, wow. This one is a classic. This is also a Bible, actually. Philip Fisher's Common Stock and Uncommon Profits. Now, it is super dry, but the main point is that he's really good at researching companies. Scuttlebutt. When you say scuttlebutt, you usually think about this book. The idea is that you have to really get your hands dirty when you invest, in the sense that you have to figure out some stuff about this company. And it's difficult to read, but very good. Okay, now let's mix this up a bit. The Dando Investor, a very good value investor, Monish Pabrai. A lot of good points in this book. What I really like about this book, and which I think is the main point, is the way he thinks about investing. He thinks of it as a bet. And he says that you have to bet big when the odds are good, basically. And there are a lot of quotes here. Investing is all about the odds. Few bets, big bets, infrequent bets. And it's all about only participating in coin tosses where heads, I win. Tails, I don't lose much. That really sums up the main point of the book. Great book, Dando Investor. Let's see. Okay, this book I brought up because you have to read this particular book, but there's a point with it. It's called Focus, the ASML way. And the point is, whenever you research a company, read books about that particular company. So this book obviously is about ASML, which creates machine for the chip industry. Very complicated business, but the point is just, if you're investing in Novo, go read a book about Novo, and so on. Oh, this one belongs in the same category as the Dando Investor. Guy Spear, The Education of a Value Investor. This is not just an investing book. This is really about living life. It's a book about how to be a good human being, basically. And what I really got from this book, apart from the fact that he actually shares with you his checklist and a lot of observations about investing, but I really got this point, which is more philosophical. It is that investing can be a way of living. And when you're investing the right way, you are actually a better person. And I really like the idea of connecting investing in the stock market with life. So few people do that. Christopher Mayer, 100 Backers, a book about finding companies that will give you really, really good return over time. Talking about connecting investing to the spiritual side. This is such a mind-blowing book. Power versus Force. And I think I might do a whole video. He wrote a whole series of books. I've got them somewhere in the house. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit wild. So there's energy in everything. He says that if you take 2 lemons and one is organic and one is not, one will have negative energy and the other one will have positive energy. And you can measure this energy with your body. You will get a physical reaction. Now, how does this link with investing? Well, I believe, and for some of you that might sound pretty crazy, but I do believe that when you invest, you will have the answer in your body. But you won't just have it like that magically. You have to research the company. You need to give your body data. Read about the company, read the annual reports, listen in on the earnings calls, read books about the company, look up interviews with the founder, look up interviews with the CEO, look up interviews with the CFO, do the research and then listen to how does your body react to the frequency of this company. Yeah, I know it's a wild thought. Now, listen, you might be thinking, there's way too many books. And this, like I said, it's just some of them. Well, there is a shortcut. And the shortcut is that you take my investing course, because I've read all the books. I've really condensed it into lessons, so you don't have to read all the books. The last mistake is not investing, postponing investing. And a lot of people do this. Why? They want to invest, but they don't. Why? Well, right now is just not a good time. That's a very common one. I'm so busy at work. The kids are so small. We're buying a house and rebuilding it. I will do it when the kids are bigger, when the deadline at work is over, when the market looks different. There's a lot of fear in that last one. It could be that you're afraid that the market will drop. That will keep you from investing. What do you do about that one? Well, actually, there's always a good way to invest in any market. And that's the way I invest. It's called value investing. And I can teach you how to do it through the ebook that you can download below. And the idea here is to look at what is a company actually worth and invest in the stock, buy the stocks when the stocks have more value than the actual company. Meaning, so you calculate what a company is worth, you figure out what that worth is per stock, and then you compare, and we talk about price and value. So value is what the company is really worth, and price is the stock price. When the value is higher than the price, that's when you invest. And in that way, you don't have to be that afraid about stock market crashes and a good or bad time in the market. We're not timing the market. We're just looking at, is this a fair price I'm investing in this company for? That's what I had for you today. Remember, there's some resources below. You can learn more about investing below. You can learn more about being tax efficient below. I'll see you in the next video. Have fun.